welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is the second show today. I have to be careful
For
about
you,
saying
my
good
first.
afternoon or good morning. This morning I was going to say good morning, but then I realized it was the afternoon on the East Coast, so I can't say good morning or good afternoon in the morning show. But today, for this one, I can say good afternoon because it's truly in the afternoon everywhere that people are watching. So
We'll just go with
welcome.
greetings from now on. It's a safe bet.
Welcome. So let's welcome our guests. We have David Wald from Aclaimant joining us today. It's going to be an interesting conversation. We're really looking forward to it, especially about workplace safety, which has a whole new meaning today because of COVID. But before we do that, let's get to know you a little bit, David. Please tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. Very excited to be here. So David Wald, co-founder, CEO of Aclaimant. Today, based in Chicago, been here for probably almost over a decade at this point in time, but currently working from home and quarantining with 3 little people, 4, 2, and 1, and a nice long-haired dachshund, which makes every day an adventure. But prior to this, actually have spent my career in kind of technology, both as a management consultant in technology, and then also with the team from Groupon, actually in their venture fund, Lightbank. So was a venture capitalist for a number of years first, both as an investor and as an entrepreneur in residence, and then jumped from helping companies and working with companies to actually being a founder here as well. And the rest was kind of history.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the show. We appreciate having you here. Speaking of Aclaimant, tell us a little bit about what gave birth to this idea. What do you guys do? What is the company about?
It's the world's weirdest story for a startup. I'll start with that as the prequel.
We like weird stories.
Right? Weird is good. So the headline for us, we call it an insight-driven workflow solution for safety and risk managers. In plain English, though, we work really hard to make the people who keep people safe in manufacturing facilities, construction sites, staffing firms, and the people who deal with everything that goes wrong, the claims managers and the risk managers' lives easier. So we build the solutions to kind of help them have a digital environment to work from soup all the way to nuts, from preventing everyone from getting hurt to dealing with them when they do, working through insurance, regulation, litigation, analytics, understanding, all in kind of one compounded system.
So you basically, I see if I get this right. Are you working also to have OSHA compliance? Is that what you're, because in construction,
everything.
That's kind of a big deal, right?
Right. OSHA compliance, safety regulations, you name it. And I think what's been really interesting about us, back to the founding story. So, there's 3 co-founders of this business. One is a longtime friend, the brilliant technologist, Joel Friedman. One 35-year insurance veteran, Michael Schultz, is also my father-in-law. But he was not my father-in-law when the business started. And so, right, as that for a setup.
Well, you go in, you go all the way. I mean, you're all in 100%. So, okay, so let's go right into the topic today.
But aren't you all about risk management? That wasn't
right.
But
I never said I
shoes,
Yes, I never said I had good decision-making abilities. Just happen to do things very well. That's not one of them.
All right. What's the topic today, Kim? Let's go right into it. This should be fun.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, David. So today we're going to be talking about identifying and protecting what's important, mainly discovering how technology is used to help companies empower employees in creating a culture of workplace safety. So I'm really interested to know what that overlap is between traditional work safety and how technology is helping you to enhance that process.
Absolutely. And it's a great question. And I think it's one of the most important things that I've actually found in actually creating safer environments. And so when we started, I think one of the things that we found early on was there are companies that want to do well, right? They want to have safe places to work. They want to have employees feel safe, but they lack both the tools to do it, which I think is where we come and fit in. And a lot of them lack the understanding that you can't just say be safer and people become safer, right? It's a thing that requires a shift in mindset. And I think one of the interesting kind of ones as a perfect example over time is you mentioned OSHA. So one of the most common things on every construction site for a number of years, manufacturing facilities, if you remember, you ever walked around a site, they had a sign that said days since last OSHA recordable incident. And so for the longest time, there was this kind of almost an unintentional or an intentional miss, which is You don't want to be the person that takes it from 360 back to 1. You don't want to be, the guy or the girl who raises their hand and says, I got hurt today, back at 0, and everyone's, oh, I can't believe you can. Instead, what we're seeing today is kind of shifting that culture around and using all these tools to help people do the things that they themselves can incrementally control and contribute towards making a workplace safer. And so the example now is you shifted from how many days since someone's been hurt to how many situations have been prevented or reported today that could have been problematic and were not, and making those incremental improvements in everyone's own daily life that takes you from a situation where you're trying to just say, I hope nothing bad happens, I have an umbrella in case it rains, to we're now making sure everyone, everywhere, all the time has the tools to help them individually contribute to changing the culture and becoming better, thinking of each individual person as a building block here, as opposed to the thing that's going to knock the bridge down.
That's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, you make an interesting point about that metric didn't really say whether the incident that happened was any kind of consequential to someone's life versus.
Yeah, it's such a common metric. We see it all over in TV news.
Right, but it's
TV
like I might have just,
movies.
hit the nail a little wrong with the hammer and hurt my thumb, but it's not going to set me back in my life. It hurts, but it's going to be okay in a few days versus, I stepped on a nail and it was rusty and I hadn't had a tennis shop in 15 years. That's a problem, right? Or worst case scenario, there's even worse situations. So how does this technology, you said something interesting about being able to make incremental improvements or being able to identify this happened, but we avoided it to be worse. How do you go about showcasing that? How does the technology allow that to happen?
Can we pause just 1 second? I'd like to go back. So what I'm understanding is that we're utilizing technology to shift our mindset rather than like, don't screw up. It's like, hey, everybody's opening their eyes, and collectively we're able to be even more preventative because everybody collectively with technology's help is on the lookout for the thing that could cause the next oops rather than don't make it.
Well, that's the question. That's what we're trying to find out, right?
Absolutely.
How does it work?
Right.
Did I understand that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so I think, right. And I think we kind of think of technology here. And I think I was reading an article today, and it might even been one of the guys who was on your show. I think it was IA versus AI, if I'm not mistaken. And I think his point was spot on, which is, in our view, technology is here to help assist people do their jobs better, be safer, and contribute, as opposed to trying to find ways to be replacing. And I think how we envision our product and where we fit in is we believe that not every business wants to be a safe business. And so for the people who just, want to pay their claims, pay their OSHA fines, move on, and it kind of is what it is because the guys who run it think it's good enough, or they make enough money, or they don't care, that's fine. We feel like we're able to help the companies who make the proactive decision to say, I want to be, and we call it active risk management, but it basically means people who embrace safety and proactivity as a cultural idea, as a thing that they want to do. When that happens, our solution is actually designed to connect the entire field population, the corporate offices, to make sure all of the data collection processes, follow-ups, everything that someone needs to be able to do to work through the myriad of ways you can keep people safe, mitigate things that go wrong, and deal with the things that really go wrong in one connected solution. And so whether we're talking about, on a mobile device, being able to walk around and document things that are out of compliance or things that are unsafe, or reporting things, where a forklift, almost crushed me this morning because we had a blind corner without a mirror on it. And hey, let's go ahead and make sure someone knows about that versus I'm just saying, okay, back to work. So how we think about it is each individual person at a work site has an opportunity to contribute to completing activities that help to make the place safer, cleaning things up, observing behaviors, documenting things that are going right and wrong, and letting people know when there are opportunities for improvement, as well as when things do go wrong, being part of a connected solution that can say, hey, by the way, so-and-so got hurt today. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure that David's following up with the injured employee. Let's make sure that the supervisor is giving them a call after they've gone home from work to make sure that they're feeling okay, they have a way to come back, that nothing is falling through the cracks. Because we find the trick to safer environments, the trick to having workplaces that are more inclusive, isn't so much about doing anything radically different, although there are some great radical ideas out there, but most people don't have the tools, processes, and systems in place to really help them do all of the basic stuff. And I think that's really where we come in, is we help make the basic stuff easy, automated, just like that.
I love the idea of the tools and the processes in place and the idea of garnering a greater community. So the forklift guy is like, gosh, we really should have a mirror there. But I think traditionally, or where we're still trying to close that gap, is who do I talk about that, right? It makes me think of the times, this very sad cases where how many of us, right, have been driving and you're like, gosh, this four-way stop really should be a stoplight. Somebody's going to get killed someday. And nobody does anything until somebody gets killed, and then a week or two or however many, then the city's putting up a stoplight, right? So it's like we're sitting here going, there really should be a stoplight here, there really should be a stoplight here, but maybe we don't even know who to reach out to get that stoplight. And so you're help creating that network within the company itself, and that voice, and encouraging that voice.
Yeah, connectivity.
So David, how does it work? That's brilliant. How does it logistically work? Is it an app that people can? Well, I don't want to give you the answer. You please tell us how it works.
Yes, no, great. So app, mobile-friendly website, and then internet browser-based solution. So connecting all three. So anybody with any device, anywhere, gets access to the Aclaimant system, logging in with kind of secure credentials. When they pull it up, they have kind of a couple of different roles. But what we'll basically do is we create a digital equivalence of their current processes in our solution. So the idea is that if you are a company who says, here's our daily checklist for a food facility, or you're a restaurant that says, here's our opening checklist, you're a construction site that says, here's how we evaluate forklifts, or here's our end of shift checklist, whatever it may be, or here's the procedures you want people to go ahead and work through in the event of a workplace injury or an accident or damage to property. We take all of those things and or a combination of our best practices and load them into our system. So let's press the button. It's all right there. It's connected to all of your core back office systems and third-party data sets. So I can go ahead and pull over information about my job site. I can append information about the weather today automatically, and then walk through all the different things that I need to go ahead and do, either because it's a best practice, it's a regulation, my company suggests I should do it, all my fingertips, and let me then route information in a workflow solution to the appropriate parties in corporate, in HR or risk with your insurance carrier or your agent. So the idea is we're trying to go ahead and take what is today a relatively ad hoc and disparate process, make it available to anybody at their fingertips on any device, press a button, follow the steps, submit it, task information immediately go out to whoever they have to go to. All the appropriate follow paperwork is assigned and created digitally in a system. Your claim can be filed with your carrier at the click of a button. And again, we take, what today is multi-step, broken, complex, very difficult, and make it just available on your phone as easy as you're going to open up, iTunes or Spotify and just listen.
How's it done today? Is it all just written manuals? You have to. How's that being managed today?
Yeah, so it's
What's
the
so
most.
different?
Yeah, it's the most amazing thing. And this was one of our craziest insights when we started off. And so if you can imagine, I came from VC, I came from the venture world. And so, we're doing investing and we're looking at AI, reading insights on social trending that's being used to power hedge funds, like crazy stuff that's like 15 levels of tech deep. And what's really interesting is the deeper we get into this space, the more we realize that it's an incredibly young and incredibly green space across safety and risk management that is still today managed either through a legacy system that was built in 95, 2000, 2005, if you're lucky, but 80% of our customers are still using paper, pencil, Excel, Access, if you're lucky, Dropbox and SharePoint. And these aren't companies like, Bob's Pancakes. These are, Fortune 50, Fortune 500, incredibly sophisticated organizations. But the problem is there's so much nuance and so much complexity, and it's such kind of a hidden club in terms of safety, EH&S, and risk that a lot of people haven't tackled it. And so what we kind of found was by taking the approach of building a easy to configure workflow solution, giving people the ability to go ahead and build their tools and their systems and processes easily into a system that is representative of the way that safety managers work and risk managers work, and the complexities of things like insurance and OSHA and state boards, et cetera. We really took what was a series of very complex problems, and it sounds very simple. The playbook makes a ton of sense. Everyone's done it everywhere. Risk and safety just got forgotten about, and we felt like that wasn't fair. And somebody needed to help look out for them as well. And, that was us.
So correct me if I'm wrong. It's mostly a pull system, right? I got to I get in there to use the information. But I think we had a conversation earlier hinting the possibility that I can also push information. How does that come into play?
Absolutely. So we go both ways because we think it's important both for people to be able to let a system and their team know when things have happened, and the system to go ahead and make sure everybody's on top of everything they should be aware of as well. And so that happens a couple of different ways. One is we are monitoring information about things like insurance claims, things like severe weather and COVID, and giving people information into where there are opportunities or problems or alerts that they should know about and things are going on. So example being, do you have 15 insurance claims open and all of a sudden one of them has a huge spike in cost? We're going to proactively pull that information from your insurance carrier or TPA and let the risk team know about it. Simultaneously, in the event of an incident or accident, or even just an open file, or even just a general day, we have proactive and automated tasking. We call them smart tasks because we're kind of using logic and AI in the background to go ahead and create alerts and actions for people to know what to do and when to do it as well. So we kind of felt like the combination of being able to enter information in the system, have the system pull information from third parties, and also monitor open situations, and then let people know automatically when they have things to do, when things are missed, when there's opportunities to go ahead and improve, was equally as important. Because to your point, it's only as good as the action you're able to influence people to do, whether it's proactivity on their part, from their point, or letting them know how to be proactive in their daily lives.
So at what levels of the organization does this proactivity hit? Does it go all the way down to the delivery truck driver having that voice? Like, hey team, I was just on, First Avenue and there's been an accident, traffic's backed up, look out. Or, the ice is really bad in this area, redirect. Or are we able to talk about that and communicate one another using your application?
Absolutely. We find that most deployments, and there's kind of this interesting dynamic that exists between businesses and their employees as it relates to risk. And so I think the very progressive ones have recognized that it's not just management and supervisory and then director levels who are important here, but everybody. And so they kind of will give full system, or I guess reporting access to the entire population, let them know, I have 4,000 workers at a plant. I want to know from everybody once a week what's going on, what's going well. Are people seeing things that are unsafe? And we're being used in that capacity. I would say about 60% of our users and our customers are still cutting things at the supervisor level. And their rationale is they want the people who are working and kind of actually doing the jobs to be focused on the task at hand and not be, it's to sound horrible, distracted by safety, but that the supervisors are the ones who are responsible for walking around and helping people to understand this is right, this is wrong, here's how you can kind of be safe. So I think there's kind of a business decision people make often, but we can go all the way down to the users and employees and even out to third parties as well. It's kind of limited more by the businesses as opposed to by the system.
We here at Encora, Mexico we're a self-managed unit, right? And we really appreciate that transparency and this sort of flat organization design. I'm just curious, and maybe you don't have this data, but have you seen, are workplaces that allow that more everybody has access safer than the ones who try to keep it at a more supervisory level?
Okay, great question. And so what I would say is we don't have the data to do it because even inside of organizations, we have units that may be very proactive. I have a plant in Ohio. I have a facility in Toronto, or you name it, that is saying, I want everyone there to use it. And I have other ones that are either under a different jurisdiction, part of a JV, et cetera, that won't say it. I can say factually that the number of data points, the amount of follow-up that people do from employee inspired or employee activated safety programs are far and away significantly more. It's 10 to 20 times more activity and more follow-up. And I also can factually say that the more proactive points people take and act upon, the significantly equivalent reduction occurs in the amount of things that go wrong. So I have a couple of data points along the way that I think eventually, if you were to ever step back and get a company who said, I fully want every employee to do, and I fully want every employee not to, you'd see it. But we don't have the actual hard metrics to share yet, but we're working very hard to get that because it's our belief.
Seems like there's a correlation.
100%. And I think even from a fundamental concept, right, we believe that risk and safety has been this, ivory tower of like, it's the H&S, it's risk man, it's insurance, you would understand. And we feel like it's more important to say risk is everybody's business, right? Safety is everybody's culture. And so you have to have companies that want to be better risks and they want to engage their employees and their populations to get there. And if you do that, you can use tools like ours to really help facilitate that process, because that's the only real way to make sure people are safe.
And I imagine that there's the correlation too with a safer environment, even impacting other areas of the business, like employee loyalty, tenure, and everything else that might be connected to that.
Yeah,
it's interesting. The same companies who have that attitude are usually those companies that tend to create the kind of environment where it's pushed down. Everything is pushed down, right? So what I'm hearing is you've found a way to gamify safety by
effectively.
I kept thinking like what Waze did when they came out, right? They got all the drivers to contribute different situations on the road. There's an accident, there's a hazard. I mean, and people were basically contributing enough of that they could create an environment where you got insights that all the other GPS services didn't provide, and they essentially gamified people reporting problems on the road. And it sounds to me that if you want to create a culture of safety in an organization, you have to find a way to gamify that, and it sounds that's what you guys are doing. So culture,
which makes a lot of sense. We've had a talk, sorry for the interruption, but there was a previous guest a while back that was talking about the need for play in the workplace, or play in life in general, right? We think that as adults, we no longer need to play.
But I was going to say that the people who think that you can't get everyone involved to participate are also the same people who didn't think you could be effective working remote. And look at what's happening for the past 8 months. Many of those companies and many of those leaders have learned how wrong they were in that mindset.
Oh yeah.
Because when you empower people when you empower people, they step up and get it done. So what's the hurdle for you guys in terms of getting more adoption?
Adjust for remote.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, we kind of asked two questions at once. I was wondering how Aclaimant has had to adjust, or how you're learning to adjust with more remote workplaces, or what is that the new horizon for you?
So I'll hit that one, and then I'll hit the other one if that works real quick. So what's been interesting for us on the remote side was we've been remote since we were founded. So we were remote US based, and it was hilarious because for years, every venture capitalist we talked to, every customer we talked to said, "Are you sure you want to be remote? Can you handle that? Can you survive like that?" And we've grown the team over time. We kind of built all the process. We kind of have it down. It's now a thing. We can onboard people, have people in all different locations. We're on Zoom and Slack, and we can then be able to really, it's worked for us. And so for years, everybody questioned, and then as soon as this happened, everybody looked back at us and said, "Whoa, how do you guys do that? That's great." And now everyone's saying we're doing it too. This is great. This is awesome. So I think for us, remote has actually been no change. We were, in half the team was in an office twice a week. And now they're just not, and there's been no real change. From a customer perspective, what's been super interesting in our universe is that what's happened with this kind of move to remote has been a bunch of manual processes that typically existed in safety and risk management have now broken. So when you are used to having people whose job it is to go to different sites, to fill out a clipboard, to fax something over and scan it, when you ask those people then go ahead and stay at home when they can't get to where they got to, they now need a better way to communicate and connect and collaborate with the field and corporate and their broker and the carriers and the TPAs and the risk staff that they work with. And that's forced an incredibly aggressive adoption of technologies like ours, where all of a sudden people are like, "Oh my God, all my files are at my desk. I used to just walk next door and hand it over, and now I need a system to do it." So we're seeing the move to remote has actually caused a need for all processes to become digital, or at least much more digital. And that's been just a phenomenal tailwind for us.
How has COVID also changed the landscape of workplace safety? I mean, that takes a whole new meaning, right? Workplace safety isn't just about some, falling off the stairs, a ladder or what have you. Now it becomes more trying to avoid a virus. How has that introduced new complexities for you guys, and how have you guys handled that?
Absolutely. Great question. And I think what's really interesting here, we always think it's the duration of what safety means, I think, has changed. And what's really interesting is we kind of step back and look at it as, historically, when you're talking about observing behavior or checking tires on a truck, um, we're thinking about, okay, if I do this wrong and if things break, I might something go wrong in a day or a week, or if I see it wrong 100 times, something bad could happen. But you're not seeing like a type of requirement. Here, what's interesting is with infectious diseases that are airborne at the workplace, lack of quick response, lack of quick behavior can take a 2-week, 3-week type resolution time frame and force it to be hours or minutes. I have an exposure to the workplace. If I don't clean it up, send people home, get everyone out of facility. We've all seen what's happened with the plants in the middle of the country and all these things that have been shut down because you have massive outbreaks. And unfortunately, if there's enough people who get it, someone's going to die, which is a crazy, crazy chasm to cross. And saying in 8 months, safety went from 3-week cycles to 3-minute cycles. And having to find ways to support that has been very interesting. And so for us, because we've kind of been an electronic medium, because we have instantaneous alerting, we've always been trying to push safety to that limit of saying, why can't safety be real time? Why can't it be a thing? So the biggest changes for us have actually been more around configuring our solution to help accommodate now new types of things that can go wrong. Someone was sick, a guest was exposed. There was a new requirement for different kinds of regulations from the CDC or states that have now been incorporated back into our solution. And so what then is a little bit of retooling as opposed to rebuilding. But I think it was funny. We were felt like for a while we were kind of a Ferrari, trying to help kids get to school. And now everyone's like, I need a Ferrari too. And so it's been kind of a very nice windfall for us.
Cool. Well, we're coming up on time. Kim, I think you have one more question.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really fun talking with you today, David.
Yeah.
Learned a lot. I can really see the passion for what you do. What we hear again and again about entrepreneurs, right? What you need to do is find a need, and that's exactly what you did. And not only did you find a need, but one that's important to you and to everyone ultimately. So what would be kind of your words of wisdom and your learning experience over these last couple of years for people like you who are wanting to create something? What's worked, what hasn't? What would you say to those folks?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things that I think are probably the biggest key takeaways. And I think that there's kind of two different things I always tell people. One of them is there's nothing magical about starting a business. Everybody likes to put, entrepreneurship on a pedestal and say, oh my God, it's so hard to do. I could never. And the reality is it's not. Anybody can decide to start a business tomorrow. You walk out with a sign and start selling something and that's it. And so I think a lot of people are too afraid to jump, and they think if I jump, I'll be in the ether forever. I'll never be able to pay my bills. And I think people overemphasize how much risk is involved. That said, it's not easy, right? You take all of a sudden everything on yourself and it becomes just a slog. There's nobody to get coffee. There's nobody to do your paperwork. There's no one to do your taxes. And so you really, if you want to do it, you shouldn't be afraid of it. But you also should make sure you're kind of up for the workload. And the second thing that I always say as well, I think is nobody really knows what you know, and everybody will pretend like they do. And so early on, for years, everybody told us, I do that. There's not a business here. Why are you pushing? And we were just convinced that we were right. And so I think the most important thing is to figure out what you believe in and why, and push and push and push. And people will tell you you're wrong, and people will tell you it doesn't make sense, and people tell you it's not there. But as long as you're kind of true in your beliefs and you kind of know where you're headed, just keep going, because either you get there or you won't. But you will definitely not get there if someone talks you off the path.
And on that note, I will share something pretty embarrassing. In 1991, 1992, I was in New York City with some friends, and walk in Sergey Brin and his co-founder, and we're talking about Google, and I laughed in their face because I thought it was the dumbest idea I've ever heard. And at the time, I could have invested a little bit and made lots of money from that investment. So the last laugh is on those guys who believe in themselves, who get it done in despite of people like me who said that sounds like a ridiculous idea. So congratulations for sticking with it, because you'll have the last laugh. So anyway, thanks for joining us. Stay with us as we go off the air. Thank you for being with us. I'd like to encourage everyone to come back next Monday for the recap show. We don't have a show tomorrow. Our guests had to make a change. So we will be back Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific for the recap show. We did still manage to have 3 shows this week. We had 1 yesterday and 2 today. So we'll have plenty to recap. I encourage you to come back, and you'll hear the lineup for next week on Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for joining us. Have a safe rest of your week and weekend.
Thank you.